Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you very much for joining us. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I wanted to seek your good wishes and your blessings so that we can say something about the Srimad Bhagavatam, which will please the divine couple, Radha Krishna. This is only through the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, who's given us this easy access to the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's wonderful that we are able to access that mercy through his grace. And thanks to Guru Maharaj, who very kindly has also given us wonderful directions about Bhagavatam and how we should learn, teach, and enter into the divine nectar and pastimes of the Bhagavatam. So we wanted to look at chapter 7 of Canto 2, 7, 8, 9 today, hopefully. Oh yes, the beginning, Naniben, we wanted to just show this point about the different incarnations.
Yes.
Good. Okay. So this is according to the the Brahma Samhita. Brahma Samhita is a small scripture. Well, it's a huge scripture, but only a small part of it is has been retrieved by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that book is in circulation in ISKCON, written by the purports have been written by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, the Guru Maharaj of Srila Prabhupada. And in these verses, Lord Brahma explains quite a lot about the spiritual world. This information is also attained from the Srimad Bhagavatam itself. So this is a very interesting chart. It starts with Krishna as the original cause of all causes. The first expansion is Balaram, who is, as in Krishna Leela, his elder brother, but actually he's the first expansion. And there's no difference between the two, except one is black and the other is white. That's the difference. So in terms of strength, power, everything is the same. The first quadruple expansion is from Balaram, Vasudev, Sankarsan, Padumna, and Aniruddha. And from these four, the avatars of Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughna come. That's directly from these, the first quadruple expansion. From Shankarshan comes Narayan. Narayan, Lakshmi Narayan, they are worshipped in Vaikuntha. So this is Narayan. Also can be known as Vishnu, but this Narayan is the one who's always in Vaikuntha, with Lakshmi Devi being worshipped by all the devotees. And then from Narayan comes a second quadruple expansion. Vasudev, Sankarsan, Padumna, Aniruddha. And from this Sankarsan, we have the three Vishnus. Karanadakshay Vishnu, Garbhadakshay Vishnu, Shirodakshay Vishnu. Now, Karanadakshay Vishnu is the one, as Madhusudan very nicely explained yesterday. Karana is the ocean. So he's lying on the ocean. And from him, when he breathes out, all the universes come out. Garbhodakshay, the Garbho is like the womb. So he enters into every universe as a second Vishnu, from whom Brahma appears. And he is also the Vishwaroop in every universe, the universal form, from whom comes Shirodakshay Vishnu, who is Paramatma with every living entity in this material world. Does that sort of help, Naniben?
Yes, just wondering why the same names of Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyuman, and Anirudh in the second expansion?
Good question. Not sure why it's same names. Mind you, they have multiple names.
Okay.
Even
Okay.
even Mahavishnu, sometimes he's called Narayan. So it's a little bit interchangeable
Okay.
and a little bit confusing, hence. So, but I'm not quite sure why they have exactly the same names. But this is a different, in terms of power and strength, they're all pretty much equal to each other. Just like it's described in the Brahma Samhita, if you have the original candle and you light another candle, that second candle will be as powerful as the first candle. But it's just that the first candle in this case is Krishna. That's the only difference.
Hi, Valnabi. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Krishna.
Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Prabhupada ki
Okay.
Jai. Shri Prabhupada. But some of these, when Krishna expands, some of these personalities we cannot understand, but sometimes they're dual personalities as well, right? Radha and Krishna, they're combined, you know, like in Gaur Lila, Lord Chaitanya is like Radha and Krishna, and then Nityananda is Balaram and Lord Nityananda. So sometimes it's very, complex. There are two souls or double souls, or, we can't. It's very, it's Krishna's will, the way he wants to expand.
Okay. Anybody else? Any questions? Is this sort of reasonably straightforward to understand? It's not easy to understand for sure. It takes a little
Yeah,
while.
like in one of the incarnations, like Nar and Narayan. Read a little bit more about that incarnation, then but as we're going through it, you'll find out. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, very, very brief overview of what we've done so far in the first 6 chapters. So, Sukadev Goswami, he congratulated Parikshit Maharaj on his question and he began to answer it. And then he describes the Virat Roop, the universal form of the Lord, because Parikshit Maharaj is also very interested in the creation of the material world. And he also offers, Sukadev Goswami goes into a lot of detail, as we saw yesterday, in terms of the conversation between Lord Brahma and Narad Muni. And Narad Muni, he's wondering, why, my dear father, are you performing so many austerities? For what reason? Is there somebody more powerful than you are? So then Lord Brahma explains the position of Narayan, Lord Vishnu, Karan Lakshya Vishnu, and how he has been empowered to perform tapasya and then do the creation. And then he explains about Karan Lakshya Vishnu, how he breathes out and billions of universes come out of the pores of his body into each universe. Then he into each universe he further expands his Garbhadaksha Vishnu, from whom Brahma is born, and then the third Vishnu, Sharadaksha Vishnu. So we've already been told that. So 53rd verse, which is the last verse of the 7th chapter, very interesting verse. Mayam vanoyato musya ishwarasya nurmodata shinavata shadaya nityam mayayatmana muyati.
The Lord's activities in association with his different energies should be described, appreciated, and heard in accordance with the teachings of the Supreme Lord. If this is done regularly with devotion and respect, one is sure to get out of the illusory energy of the Lord.
So very nice verse. We may not understand the Bhagavatam. Not everybody is going to understand the Bhagavatam. But the main point is we regularly study it with devotion and respect. We may not understand something here and there. In fact, I can guarantee it, especially when we come to the 5th canto. Some of the concepts are very difficult to grasp. It doesn't mean that it should shake our faith. We won't understand everything, that's for sure. just because we don't understand it doesn't mean it should damage our bhakti. I remember there was one question I had on my mind for many, many years, but that question did not stop me from performing or trying to perform some bhakti. So this is the thing with the Bhagavatam. The philosophy given is of a very high level, high standard. It doesn't mean we should be put off and not read the Bhagavatam. No, we should, with devotion and respect. And then we depend on the Supreme Lord. If he wants us to understand, fantastic. If he doesn't, that's okay as well, because at least we are still diving into the nectar of the Bhagavatam. So, and at one point we will come out of this illusory energy. So the 7th chapter is the description of the scheduled incarnations with the specific functions. So this is where Lord Brahma, after describing about Karadakshay Vishnu and Garbhadakshay Vishnu, he describes to Narad Muni about the different avatars. He starts with the Lila avatars. Varaha, we've gone through these. So Brahma is just giving this information to Narad Muni. First starts with Varaha, Kapil, Dattatreya, 4 Kumaras, Narnarayan, Rishabdev, Ayagriva, Matsya, Kurma, Nasingha, Vaman, Hams Avatar, Prithu, Tanvantari, Pashuram. That's the Lila avatars. And Lord Brahma also gives a little explanation of the specific purposes of these avatars. He also describes Dhruv Maharaj, King Venu, and Gajendra, the elephant devotee. Then in the next 3 verses, 23 to 25, he describes the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra, how he left for the forest with Sita, how he lamented the loss of Sita, how he burnt the aquatics with his clouds when the saga didn't come towards him, and how he finally killed Ravan. So Ramachandra is given 3. So it shows the importance of this incarnation of the Lord. And then he describes Lord Krishna. And he says in quite a few verses, about 10 verses, the Lord comes in his original form with beautiful black hair. And just to expand his glory, transcendental glories, he acts extraordinarily. No one can properly estimate how great he is. Lord Krishna appeared on the earth to diminish the burden of demons such as Putana. So he describes briefly the various pastimes that Krishna undertook when he was here. Chastised the Kaliya serpent, saved the Brijbasis from the forest fire, showed his mother the universe within his mouth, rescued his father from Varun, lifted Govardhan hill, enjoyed the Ras dance with the gopis. There is no doubt about, this is what Lord Brahma is saying, there is no doubt about Lord Krishna's being the Supreme Lord. Who can perform such Herculean tasks but the Supreme Lord? So this is like a definitive statement by Lord Brahma. Oops. So then Lord Brahma explains the Kali Yuga incarnation who haven't yet appeared. So these are the ones that are predicted, apart from Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva has appeared to deliver the Vedas to the people. Buddha will come to give good moral instructions. And finally, Kalki will come to kill all the sinners. So that is at the end of Kali Yuga. And then the new age will begin of Satya Yuga again. Then brief description of the Gunavatars. He only spends 1 verse, the 39th verse, describing the Gunavatars, which includes himself. And then he's describing neither Brahma himself, nor all the sages born before Narad know fully the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what can others who are born after him know about him? Even the first incarnation of the Lord, namely Lord Shesh, first incarnation Balaram. So from Balaram comes Lord Shesh, the Ananta Shesh, the snake incarnation, has not been able to reach the limit of such knowledge, although he is describing the qualities of the Lord with 1,000 mouths. And he said he's been doing that since time immemorial. So his Lord's qualities are unlimited. If we think we can understand the Lord, we have to think again. We won't be able to fully understand him. But we don't need to understand him. All we got to do is love him. But anyone who is specifically favored by the Supreme Lord due to unalloyed surrender unto the service of the Lord can overcome the insurmountable ocean of illusion and can understand the Lord through love, through the loving surrender. But those who are attached to this body, which is meant to be eaten at the end by dogs and jackals, cannot do so. So if we're attached to the body and everything connected to the body, any attachment will keep us in this world. We must understand that. So whilst we are living, whilst we are able, we try to become detached from everything, including this body, any relations with this body. It's a big task. And it's only possible if we become completely attached to the Lord. Detachment cannot take place unless there's complete attachment to the Lord. So what we're doing by going through the Bhagavatam, it will increase our faith, increase our attachment and love for the Supreme Lord. And that's what we need to do. And then the Bhagavatam is spoken about. Lord Brahma states, O Narad, this science of God, Bhagavatam, was spoken to me in summary by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These are the 4 verses that Krishna originally spoke to Lord Brahma right at the beginning of creation. And it was spoken as the accumulation of his diverse potencies. Please expand this science yourself. So Lord Brahma is the spiritual master as well as the father of Narad, and he's instructing him. Please describe the science of Godhead with determination in a manner by which it will be quite possible for the human beings to develop transcendental devotional service onto the personality of Godhead Hari. So very, very sweet instructions by Lord Brahma to Narad Muni. So that would end the chapter 7. Are there any questions coming out from chapter 7? Anybody like to, or any comments? Hopefully devotees are reading these chapters and may have some realization.
Haribol Navi.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I find this fascinating, in chapter 7, because although, so many different incarnations are mentioned in brief, and they give the reason why, one of them actually quite struck me was the one about Lord Buddha, that when the atheists, after being well versed in the Vedic scientific knowledge, annihilated inhabitants of different planets, flying unseen in the sky on well-built rockets, prepared by the great scientist Maya, the Lord will bewilder their minds by dressing himself attractively as Buddha and will preach on sub-religious principles. I mean, when things like this, Bhagavatam mentions, things like rockets and different planets and planetary scene, but flying unseen in the sky, which is amazing. So when we think about all these UFOs and all that, I don't know what was going on actually, but it's fascinating. But Lord Buddha came, to divert people away from the Vedas slightly because of the misuse of Vedas. And then obviously later on, but in the purport, the incarnation of Lord Buddha is not the same Buddha incarnation we have seen in the present history of mankind. So Prabhupada says this is not the same Buddha. So maybe it's happened some other time, or that according to Srila Jiva Goswami, the Buddha incarnation mentioned in this verse appeared in a different Kali Yuga. So we can see how time is cyclic. So Kali Yugas come, this one we are in, and then there's another one, Kali Yuga will come in the future. There was a Kali Yuga in the past. So time is, to me, like a spiral form of time, not linear time, which is something to understand.
Good point, because that's a really good point, because Bhagavatam isn't a historical account. So your point is very valid, that if we're thinking that it's one after the other, it may not be.
Yeah. Therefore, the particular type of Buddha mentions. So Lord Buddha incarnates at a time when the people are most materialistic and preaches common sense religious principles. Such ahimsa is not a religious principle itself, but it is an important quality for a person who is actually religious. So when he says ahimsa, ahimsa, there is a need of hinsa when there is a need, like Arjun had to use violence to be on the battlefield, but ahimsa on its own, like Mahatma Gandhi preached, non-violence, is a different principle. So anyway, quite intricate,
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But it's good to bear that in mind, that this Bhagavatam is not necessarily, there's not necessarily a historical timeline. It's not in accordance with the historical timeline.
It actually refers to me like, time. I was explaining time the other day to somebody, who's trying to understand that time to us seems like it's linear, like past, present, future. But it actually is like a spiral, if you can think of a spiral of a DNA, which uncoils, so it's going upward or downward anyway, but there's cyclic, anyway. Yeah.
So tracking the conversations, we've just been in a conversation between Lord Brahma and Narad Muni. So now the conversation again shifts back to Sukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. So just now Parikshit Maharaj will address Sukadev Goswami. So we are going to be shifting away from Narad Muni. The subject is still the same, the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is a very nice verse as well, 286. Atma Purusha Krishna Padamulam Namunchati Mukta Sarva Parikesha Panthasva Saranam Yatha.
A pure devotee of the Lord, whose heart has once been cleansed by the process of devotional service, never relinquishes the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, for they fully satisfy him, as a traveler is satisfied at home after a troubled journey.
And we've all had troubled journeys somewhere along the line, whether it's local or international. And we know once we're back in our home, how happy we become, relieved we become. So similarly, once we go back to the spiritual world, we'll again become relieved of all the horrible situations we're going through in this material world. Questions by Parikshit?
Sorry.
Yes.
Yes. Just something. When we pray to Radha Krishna, we say, accept my humble obeisances at his lotus feet. When we pray to Srila Prabhupada, what do we say?
You mean the Namo Vishnupadaya?
That prayer we sing. Is that not something like accept my humble obeisances?
No, it is. It's the same. It's the same. But in that prayer, we're recognizing how, Prabhupada is the founder Acharya of the Hare Krishna. How, especially Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravanam, we're saying to Prabhupada, you came to this Western world, which is full of Sunyavadi, people want to merge with the Lord. And we're just very grateful to you. We can read the translation, Namo Vishnupadaya, what it actually means.
We know, that's fine.
Shall we do that? You want to do that?
No, it's okay. I know that. That's fine.
Okay. But we're still offering our obeisances because even the devotee has lotus feet. the same as the Supreme
That's
Lord.
what I was asking. Lotus feet. We can say that, yes?
Absolutely, we can.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then say the prayers. Namo Vishnu Padaya.
Yeah. Yes, that's really good because that's coming from, it's not just parrot fashion.
Mm.
What we got to avoid is the parrot fashion prayers. But if you say something which is from your heart, my dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my, and then you do the Namo Vishnu, that's really nice.
Okay.
And Navi, it's very good to understand the meaning of that prayer, because when you say, Gauravani, so Prabhupada is distributing the Vani of Gaura, Lord Chaitanya, Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvisesa, it means Sunyavadi, that means you're destroying the Sunya, the impersonalists, and Sunyavadi mean like voidism. So good to get to know the meaning of that prayer, yeah.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who's very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Our respectful obeisances unto you, O spiritual master, servant of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami. You are kindly preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya Dev and delivering the Western countries, which are filled with impersonalism and voidism. Very good to occasionally just keep reminding ourselves, what is that prayer? Because otherwise we just do it parrot fashion. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Babu.
Hare Krishna. Indulekha.
I think when we meet devotees, we say Vanchakalpa, right?
Yes.
Vanchakalpa, because we don't say the same Vani that we say for Prabhupada. When we meet devotees, we say Vanchakalpa Turvasya.
That's correct. Yes. I think Nani Ben's question was a little different. She was asking about Prabhupada, prayer offered to him. But absolutely, when devotees meet, and we should get into the habit of doing that. In fact, we do that through
We do that.
Mangala Charan, yeah.
Yes.
But again, if you do it parrot fashion, I think that's a good idea. We should have a look at those Mangala Charan prayers and just remind ourselves
that we should do at the end when we are done, when we are leaving. Then
right. Good.
Thank you.
So Maharaj Parikshit praises Bhagavatam. So where Brahma was instructing Narad to spread the message. So then Maharaj Parikshit is taking on that baton. He's praising this Bhagavatam, which is the sound incarnation of Lord Krishna. And when heard regularly, enters into the heart of the devotee, sits on the lotus flower of his loving relationship with Krishna, and thus cleanses the dust of material association, such as lust, anger, and hankering. Thus it acts like autumnal rains upon pools of muddy water. So this is what Parikshit Maharaj actually said. It cleans out all the muddy water by the rains. The devotee takes shelter of the Lord's lotus feet, like a traveler who has finally come home. So we read that in the verse. Now, what did I just do? Just check where are we?
That's
fine. Okay. So now Maharaj Parikshit asked some questions. Sure. He requests Sukadev Goswami to continue explaining the glories of the Lord, because Sukadev Goswami has actually answered his questions. But Parikshit Maharaj is very thirsty to hear more. And here they are. Now, Chitra was bound to ask us, how many questions did Parikshit Maharaj ask Sukadev Goswami? So I thought, before she asks, let's get it down on writing, or on a piece of paper. So it's about 30 questions. And these are all I won't go through the questions. You can actually read the questions in the verses 7 to 23. Lots of questions asked by Parikshit Maharaj. Very intelligent questions, of course. And Sukadev Goswami will answer them all through the Bhagavatam. So these are the questions. Right? How does the spirit soul acquire the material body? Because Yeah, it's spirit. So how did it get the material body? That's an interesting question. What's the difference between the Lord's body and our body? They look similar. These are the reasons why he's asking these questions. And there's lots of questions, lots and lots of questions. We won't go through them because that's the point of the Bhagavatam. We will go through these as we're going through the Bhagavatam. He asks about time. He asks about the different rituals, Vedic rituals, the procedures of religion. How does one attain moksha? So many different. How does the crazy people appear in this world? So lots and lots of questions, roughly about 30, maybe a bit more, because some of these questions, there were subsidiary questions as well. So roughly about 30 questions he asks. Parikshit's determination. O king, the king said, O great sage, representative of the Lord, kindly satisfy my inquisitiveness in all that I have inquired from you. So he's saying to him, please don't stop. I want to hear from you. And all that I may not have heard, inquired from you from the very beginning of my questioning. Since I am a soul surrendered unto you. So this is another symptom that Parikshit is showing Sutta Goswami. I'm surrendered to you. Please impart this knowledge to me now. And he's assuring Sukadeva Goswami, don't worry, I don't feel any distress from fasting. Just because I haven't drunk anything or eaten anything, it doesn't mean I won't be attentive. I'll be really attentive. Because he's thriving by drinking the nectar of Krishna Katha. Highly pleased by such a request, Sukadeva Goswami prepares to answer Parikshit Maharaj's questions. So this is actually the perfect way to approach the Bhagavatam. The enthusiasm, such wonderful enthusiasm. If we're approaching Bhagavatam with a view, oh, this is a duty that I have, you know, the spiritual masters have said that I must do this, so I'm doing it out of duty. It's not going to carry one through. But if one does it through enthusiasm, that yes, I want to learn, and of course, if I can't learn, it's up to the Lord's mercy, but I will do my very best. That's a good attitude to have. And we should be very enthusiastic to try to read and study the Bhagavatam because it's the highest scripture. And because it's the highest, we may not be able to understand it all, but it doesn't matter. Any questions or any comments on this?
Prabhuji, all these questions by Parikshit during 7 days, last 7 days of his life, were they all going through day and night, all the time, continuously?
Yeah, all day, all night.
Oh my.
No breaks, no breaks.
No breaks and
No loo breaks, nothing.
That's why I didn't drink anything.
drink anything. Yeah, oh my. What a devotion.
Yeah. And the thing is, if you don't drink water for 1 day, you can survive. 2 days, it gets a little hard. 3rd day, without food is fine, but without water, that's really, really challenging. But he did it 7 days. And later on, it explains how he did it.
Okay.
So, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Thank you, Naniman. Yes, good point. Good point. You put it in perspective. So 9th chapter of the Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, 4th verse.
Atma Tatma Vishuddhiyatam Yad Aha Bhagavan Ritam Brahmane Darshayam Rupam Avyalika Vratatita. O King, the personality of Godhead, being very much pleased with Lord Brahma because of his non-deceptive penance in Bhakti Yoga, presented his eternal and transcendental form before Brahma. That is the objective goal for purifying the conditioned soul.
So we're learning this with no motive. The only motive is we want to just understand the Lord better. We want to please Srila Prabhupada for all the hard work he's done and actually try to study this Bhagavatam. Non-deceptive. So there's no other motive but to do that. So he starts by answering the questions. Brahma's austerity. Sukadev Goswami tells Parikshit that Lord Brahma could not trace out the source of his lotus seat. So what happened? He manifested on top of the lotus and he didn't know what to do. He knew he had the task of creation, but how, he didn't know.
It's pitch black.
And it was pitch black. So he went down the root into the flood, into the stem. That's it. But he couldn't find anything.
Find the end of it.
Find the end of the stem. So he came back up again and he sat down and he was thinking, how am I going to create this world? At that moment, Lord Krishna, Lord Brahma heard twice, tapa, tapa. This is the means austerity. This is the inspiration that is being given to him by Lord Krishna to perform tapasya. And Lord Brahma, he firstly tried to search who spoke this. So again, he dived into the stem. No joy, unable to find. So then he was inspired by the instructions and directed by the Lord within the heart to do tapa by the words of the Lord. He performed tapasya for 1,000 celestial years, that's a demigod's years, long time, for the purpose of creation. And the Lord became very pleased with Lord Brahma, to the extent that he revealed himself and he revealed his own abode, Vaikuntha, to Brahma. And the spiritual world, there's a description in these 8 verses of Vaikuntha. The Vaikuntha are full of goddesses of fortune who are serving Lord Vishnu with all opulence. And Sukadev Goswami gives a description of the Lord and his abode, Vaikuntha. He says something like, I can't remember exactly, but there's plains overhead. The Lord is worshipped with great opulence. And it's very, very beautiful, very, very peaceful, serene. And this is a description of Vaikuntha. And this is a really phenomenal painting. Whoever's done this, it's amazing. Very formal setting with Lord Narayan and Lakshmi and the different goddess of fortune and different servants that he has. Jiva Goswami names all these different servants in his Gopal Champu. Upon seeing the Lord, Brahma was overwhelmed with joy, and in ecstasy his eyes filled with tears. So he was experiencing love of Godhead. The Lord expressed in turn his pleasure with the penances that Brahma had performed, and he shook his hand. There's no coronavirus in the spiritual world, right? He shook his hand. I went to a school today, and the headmaster was coming towards me, shaking his hand, and I was standing there like this. And he said, oh yeah, I forgot. How can you forget? You're a headmaster. He explained that the highest benediction is to see the Lord face to face. And this has been possible because of Brahma's submissive attitude. So it's very interesting. Brahma performed intense penances. That pleased the Lord. But what gave him the highest benediction to see the Lord face to face was his submissive attitude, humility. So very important quality to cultivate. Brahma then asked the questions to the Lord. He expressed the desire to know about the Lord's spiritual and material forms. Interesting, he's saying the material forms, mundane, I think is the word that Prabhupada uses. How the Lord creates, maintains, annihilates the creation, and requests that he be empowered to do his service of creation, but without becoming entangled by pride. So Lord Brahma is very clear that this creation is a wonderful opportunity you've given me, but let it not get to my head. Sometimes we are given service to perform by the spiritual master. And we also have to be very careful that whilst performing this service, we don't think I am the doer, I have done this wonderful task, because we haven't. This is the order of the spiritual master that has enabled that task to be done. And then we know from the Bhagavad Gita, we're just one little part of many doers, like the Paramatma, material energy, things like that. The next series of slokas are very important. This is actually regarded as the Chatusloki. So if you can remember, second canto, 9th chapter, verses 33 to 36, 4 verses are the bij, the seed of the Bhagavatam. This is where it all began. This is how Lord Narayan instructed the Bhagavatam to Lord Brahma. So these 4 verses, very briefly, first verse, he explains how he is existing before, during, and after the creation. So he's eternal. And second verse is saying how anything that is seen without relationship to him is simply illusion. So whilst we're in this world, if we can't connect whatever we're doing with the Lord, then we just need to understand that that is illusion. It's only, like you were saying yesterday, it's just a name. That's all it is. There's no substance to it. So we try to dovetail everything we do in connection with the Supreme Lord. That becomes bhakti. And that becomes bhakti without any motivation and uninterrupted. Third verse, the Lord is within everything by his energies, yet at the same time he lives eternally in his abode in the spiritual world. So this is the inconceivable nature of the Lord. He's within everything. Raso aham apsu. Right? I am the taste in water, but he's not the water. Right? He's separate from the water, but he's also the taste in the water at the same time. This is the inconceivability of the Lord. And the fourth is one who is searching after the Lord must search for it in all circumstances, wherever possible. So these are the bij mantras to the Bhagavatam. From this, the Bhagavatam is expanded. Thereafter, the Lord disappeared, and Brahma began his work of secondary creation, Visarga. So Sarga is the original where Lord Vishnu breathes out, and Visarga is the secondary creation. Sukadeva Goswami explains to Parikshit that his questions as to how the universe became manifested from the gigantic form of the personality of Godhead, as well as the other questions, will be answered in detail by explanation of these four verses here. So that is the end of the 9th chapter. And we've got one more chapter to do tomorrow. Any questions? Because Naniben might leave. Any questions, Naniben?
No, that's fine.
Thank you, Naniben. And please keep asking her. These are really important because
yes,
when you ask, it helps us, it helps everybody.
Also, you are answering, so you feel very good communication, a good relationship, because you answer it quite well as well, you, Mataji, Prabhuji, so it's nice.
Thank you. Thank you for your encouragement. We try. We don't know all the answers for sure. We don't understand even a small part of this, but we make the effort. We'll try to make the effort.
So we will answer all the questions answered by Parikshit Maharaj.
He will answer all the questions.
Is it all spread throughout the Bhagavatam or?
Throughout the Bhagavatam, yes.
Throughout the text.
Yes, throughout the text, one by one by one. I don't know if anybody's identified, somebody must have identified where the answers are specifically. If I can find that, I will. But I know that he answers every single question. Now, I'm trying to find the advice. Sorry, oops, lost it. I did change. Indulekamaji, you there? Oh, is it Indulekamaji? Yes, are you there?
Haribol?
Okay, good. Let me just see if I can find where I
The
put
lessons.
the lessons, and then we can go into the 4-5. Yes, got it, got it. Okay. Okay, Mataji.
Okay. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare
So the lessons from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1 is, we should try to cut off attachment to the material body and we should not be afraid of death, which is difficult, right? Chapter 2, well, we should try, that's what I said.
Yeah,
Two is, whoever is able to make their life perfect through devotional service is never attracted by the material glitters again. Chapter 3, we should not worship demigods for material benefits because the fruits are temporary and limited. And chapter 4, association with the pure devotees of the Lord can purify all sorts of fallen souls. Chapter 5, one should always be aware of the Supreme Personality of the Lord to avoid illusion. And chapter 6, the spiritual world situated beyond this material world is for those who will never take birth again. Okay, thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yep. What should I always be aware? Yes, this is really good, actually. One should always be aware of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to avoid illusions. Prabhupada used to say, somebody asked Prabhupada that you are pure devotee of the Lord, etc., something like that. And Prabhupada said, do you know why? Because I always ask for protection from the Lord. And he said, devotees are taking Maya too lightly. Maya is very strong. He's always asking for protection from Maya. That's very instructive. So I like that point. So, and Madhusan Babu?
Haribol?
Hare Krishna, great.
Jai Krishna,
And thank you for
Prabhupada,
doing this. It's really amazing.
Sorry?
It's really amazing. Thank you for doing this.
Okay. Yeah, instructions. Okay, chapter 7. We should be aware of the different incarnations of the Supreme Lord. Then, as Lord Brahma instructs Narad Muni, we should also describe the science of Godhead with determination and in a manner by which it will be quite possible for human beings to develop transcendental devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Hari, the super soul of every living being and the sunum bonum source of all energies. So, you know, that verse, Canto 2, 753. The Lord's activities in association with the different energies should be described, appreciated, and heard in accordance with the teachings of the Supreme Lord. If this is done regularly with devotion and respect, one is sure to get out of the illusory energy of the Lord. At the same time, Srila Prabhupada instructs in the purport that to learn this science, one should take shelter of the representative of Shukadev Goswami and follow in the footsteps of Maharaj Parikshit without foolishly attempting to interpret, thereby committing a great offense at the lotus feet, at the feet of the Lord. The dangerous ways of interpretations by the non-devotee class of men have played havoc in understanding the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the careful student should be always alert in this matter if he at all wants to learn the science of Godhead. So really, you know, we should have authoritative representation, and then we should listen to that and follow that, really, not some interpretations. Chapter 8, Maharaj Parikshit was the best in the dynasty of the Pandavas, and thus he was able to ask the right questions from the right persons. Srila Prabhupada in the purport say that, but it is not necessary for the master to answer them in the order of the disciples' inquiries, one after the other. But Sukadeva Goswami, who was an experienced teacher, as he was, answered all the questions in a systematic way as they were received from the chain of disciplic succession. And he answered all of them without exception. So he does answer all of these questions without exception, you know. But he does do it in a disciplic succession way that he is received as well. And chapter 9, we should come to realization that we are never the Lord and that we are eternally the servitors of the Lord in the transcendental loving service, or in transcendental love, yeah. But in the purport to this chapter 9, Prabhupada quite distinctly says what was our original first sin, so-called, is that we, because Lord knows that we will want to be slightly independent and we may choose not to serve him. So then, that is our original thing, that we want to be like Krishna, actually. And we want to become the master of as good as him, but we can't really, But so then Krishna has to put us in an illusion to think that we can become Lord, or we are the Lord. So therefore the sense of I, me, mine, this is mine, this is me, I'm the master here. And when we watch all these James Bond films, we know that, they all want to become the master of the universe and all sorts of things like that, So yeah, we should always be in the serving mood. Thank you.
Brilliant, brilliant. Very helpful. And it also backs up this overview we're doing. So it's good to have that. Thank you very much. Yeah? Anybody, any questions, any comments? Okay. I wanted to, let me just stop the recording.